And so my name is Francis. I started the Facebook group, Traveling Nursing Jobs 5,000 a week and up. We're looking to help healthcare workers, specifically traveling healthcare workers, nurses, aides, CNA, anything like that. And one of the questions that we regularly get is, how do I get into real estate? What options do I have in real estate? So, in my journey, I actually met Maria, who's a real estate professional. And so, Maria, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Maria. I've been in real estate for a couple years now. I started off in collateral management, moved into tech, and then I realized, real estate is where I wanted to invest all my energy. So I have a property management company called Victory Ventures, and I also help people find their dream homes.
Okay, so how did you get like what got you started down the path to real estate? Like what led to that? Like so you didn't go to college for specifically real estate, like
So I was always around it. My mom had always been a realtor. My mom, if you've ever read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad,
mhm.
my mom was the perfect example of the rich dad. How she didn't have a huge background in like education, wasn't very educated. She got married very young, but she made it work in real estate. So that was always, my like icon, what I looked up to. And I did go to school for business management and entrepreneurship. And then I went and got my MBA. And just, looking around me, I really just started to feel like, real estate and becoming an entrepreneur was where I wanted to be.
Yeah, I think really like the push forward coming soon here is going to be entrepreneurialism. It's going to be the next big thing that takes off. Speaking of which, just in the last few years, like you were talking about, one of the big things that took off was the STRs, or the short-term rentals, or
Mm-hmm.
even mid-term rentals. One of the things that we were having an issue with in our group was there were certain websites out there that people would be looking for housing on, and they weren't screening the people that were posting on the website. So these could be people from Dubai, India, China, whatever, and they would be asking for deposits, and then all of a sudden, all their social media is deleted, phone numbers turned off, so on and so forth, and different things along those. So we actually ended up starting Crash Pads list on our Facebook page. It's kind of our own little mini version of Airbnb, where we have traveling nurses and other healthcare professionals that are in our circle in our group. They can advertise their properties to be rented out to each other. And now that's something that you've also gotten into. You're doing property management. So from that end of things, what are you seeing in the market right now? I know they raised rates, like stuff like that. Like, where are you looking with the property management? And we're talking here in specifically Florida, right?
Right. So yeah, people are always asking like, "Oh, is it a good time to buy? Is it a good time to buy?" And frankly, like it really is always a good time to buy. And, you know, interest rates are important, but really the most critical thing is cash flow. Who cares about the interest rate if you're not cash flowing? Like, you know, if you buy low and you don't cash flow, well, I hope you can, play another day. You have enough in reserves. But if you're cash flowing, then you can go in to get into the market and be fierce and if rates come down, refinance later, take home even more money.
So now
But cash flow is the name of the game.
when you say cash flow, can you break that down even further? So like say, I've never bought a property. I'm a first time home buyer, but I know I don't want to just buy a house per se. Like I want to somehow get into real estate investing with my first purchase. What would you suggest to someone like that?
Well, you shouldn't bite off more than you can chew. So find out what your budget is. And once you have an idea of your budget, you really want to figure out, do you want STR or LTR? If what you want is STR, then there's benefits and drawbacks to both of them. So, with STR, maybe you can make a little bit more money, but maybe it's a little bit more of a headache. You have tenants in and out. Maybe having a single tenant is a better option. So you need to figure out whether you want to roll up your sleeves and be an STR, LTR, or LTR. So then once you decide on if you want to do STR, you really need to figure out a great location to be. Are you going to be in an area with a lot of, you want to be in a touristy spot, you want a lot of traffic coming in. And then you've got to have a team. You've got to know your cleaners, your handyman. You have to be able to go in and get maintenance done on the fly. Like, you've got to have good relationships with people to make sure that they can get in and get it done. Because the last thing you want is, somebody to come in and things to break and you not be prepared, just constantly behind the eight ball, guest after guest.
Okay, so say a person is a little intimidated by that whole, setting up the maintenance guy, setting up the
Mhm.
cleaner. Would your company be able to help with all of that? Like getting going if somebody was looking for that real estate investment property and maybe they could, buy from out of state or something like that?
Yeah, and I have like a good network of cleaners. I predominantly work in Saleport personally. So I have 15 units out there. So it makes it so easy to run such an efficient business when you don't lose any time driving here and there. Everything is right there. So yeah, so I actually use a lot of good apps to keep things kind of on cruise control. And then, you can't always be on cruise control. So you do need to have backup cleaners, have backup handymans, backup painters, and even just being friendly with the people within the condo association, so that when something does go wrong, the handyman, the engineer or whoever is in the building can help you out.
Okay, so if you're, say, you just graduated college and you're, working your first job, you're still renting an apartment, but you're trying to get your finances together. So what credit score would you be shooting for? What kind of down payment would you be looking for? Like, do you have anything for those people, like people that are just new to the whole situation?
Yeah, so there's different types of loans. We've got Scott who can talk more about from my office, who can talk more about the mortgages. He's the mortgage broker, but there's different types of loans. Like so there's first time home buyer loan. You can have a very small down payment with that, and if that was your first home, you would qualify. The thing about first time home buyers, you actually have to live in the home. I think for 1 year, but yeah, that's a question for the mortgage broker. And then, there's DSFR loans, which are loans that are given to you based off of the income of the property. So that's a really great one to take advantage of. So like maybe if you're getting out of college, maybe your salary is 50,000, 55,000. It's not, it's pretty much the average right out of college. Well, it's going to be hard for you to make that down payment and make those payments, but if you can get qualified based off of the income of the property, that would be a good loan for you to take advantage of.
Okay. And so like you're explaining with the DSCR loans, funny enough, I've actually kind of dipped my toe into those. Um, that's more set up for the commercial side of things. So you can't combine like your first time home buyer with a DRC loan and different. Yeah. So like, if we're talking to people that are just getting, interested or curious about this market, can you talk about like the divide between, you buying your first house on the residential side versus maybe buying a four family first instead of just a residential, you know what I mean? Like just to get started type thing.
Yeah, well, you got to look at what you can afford. But I think probably the most important thing is getting in. Like, once you get in to the market, people are always going to wait for the right time, but once you get in, now you have a coin to chip up and trade up for the next big thing. So the key is just finding out what you qualify for and making it work around that. But just it's important to get in.
Okay. And so who do you have any party you would suggest for them to contact? You guys have anybody you work with maybe at your office that would maybe help on like the financial side of things, maybe if they were just checking the credit, seeing what they would have to do, just,
Yeah,
okay.
we've got I use Scott, but there's a couple from my office that we always refer out to people, and people can use whoever they want. They're just referrals, but those are great contacts. And Scott is great because he will search like all the mortgages. Like, he's not just going to shop from, he'll shop and look around for you
Okay,
and
that's
find creative
excellent.
ways to qualify.
Okay. And the name of your office again?
Stoffel and Associates.
Stoeffel Associates. And what's the number that they would need to call to get a hold of you guys?
They can contact me at 617-991-0999.
Okay, awesome. So when we wrap this all up, if you want to shoot me like your email and the office number, I can actually put it in the comments, down below. Or if we're doing, I'm going to actually put this up as a podcast as well, so that they'll have it in the podcast. You were talking
Is
about,
this live right now?
it is not live. It is. This is.
Okay, thank God. I had a freak. I thought you were just gonna call me. I was like, what are we doing? I'm so I was so confused. I was like,
I'm
I
sorry.
thought this was a phone call.
No, my apologies. Yeah, yeah. So normally what I try to do is
I
I
was
try
so
to set up.
confused.
I'm sorry, dear. My apologies. I try to set up the Zoom calls so that way Zoom's got it set up where you can actually record the Zoom like we're doing now. And
Yeah.
when you're done with the call, you hit save. It
Yeah.
splits it for you into audio and video. So it will
Okay.
give you two files. It will give you one file that's audio that you can upload to Spotify or Google Podcasts or whatever like that. The other file is a video and audio file together that you can do. I mean, if you want to post it on TikTok or Facebook or YouTube or however you want to do it. So that's how I'm doing, posting my.
Okay. Too bad I look like a rat today. I thought
uh,
this was a phone call.
yeah, trust me, it looks spectacular. There's nothing to worry about. My lighting is horrible. Like literally, this thing keeps fading in and out. Like I'm honestly like playing with different equipment, trying to figure out, what
Yeah.
different lighting situation is. I have people that tell me, they say, "Why do you have black eyes?" I said, "Because my lighting sucks." Like, you know, either I
Yeah.
wash myself completely out, you can't see me, or you're going to see all the wrinkles and laugh lines and everything else that's going on because
Yeah. You should get a ring light.
So I'm looking at one right now. There's one right in my here.
Really?
Don't pay attention to my messy desk.
Wait, that's not a ring light though, is it?
Oh, well, there's that one right there too.
Yeah, that's a ring light. But
Yeah,
like, hmm.
it's fun playing with the lighting and doing all that stuff, and
Yeah.
I'm getting there. It's still kind of a work in progress with how I want to get that all set up. And yours looks great actually with the uplighting that you have and the cam lights and stuff. Like
Oh,
the
thanks. We
the
actually just
lighting.
got these. Our house had these ugly boob lights everywhere, like pop, 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 pop. And they were all uneven. So we like actually made them symmetrical now.
Did you guys do a refi, or did you guys just have cash you could do it with, or?
So yeah, a little bit of cash at a time because we just bought it because my husband's a physician, so we got physician loan on this.
Nice,
And
nice.
I'm trying to figure out how to make myself less huge. And I don't
Away
like
from
it
the
because I
cat.
don't even see you. Whatever. In any case, so yeah, my husband's a physician, so we did a physician loan. So you don't put any money down. So the HELOC wasn't. I was actually just texting my husband about it, thinking when we can do a HELOC because we need to build some more equity into doing it. Because a HELOC, I think, is 90% of your home's value or of the equity that you have. So we're not quite. We don't have that much equity, but I think our house is worth more than what we bought it for. So
Yeah, it's so hard to deal with the market, and it's so hyper local now with the markets too. Like,
yeah.
I watch a lot of stuff, and I hear a lot of things actually from the group, and stuff. And I've heard people saying there's some markets that's just dried up, and then other markets that's still hot, and it just really depends right now. And I heard they're talking about cutting the interest rate this coming year, but they
Yeah,
have.
this year I think there's going to be 3 interest rate drops, so that would be good. But like, once that happens, everybody's going to be entering the market to buy. So, you pick your poison. Would you rather? That's what I was kind of talking about. Like when the interest rates drop, the prices are going to go up. So you might as well just buy now and refi later. Have some built-in equity, right? Because like the house that you buy for 900 is probably going to be worth $1 million in a couple months from now. So like, wouldn't you rather buy it for 900 and have that extra $100,000 in equity?
Yeah, yeah, that's a great point. And were you working in the market here before COVID?
No, I wasn't. So
Okay.
I was mostly like, was I in tech? I started in collateral management at BNY Mellon, and that was like a pretty basic, like out of first job out of college. And then I moved into tech, so I wasn't really in finance at all. And then I just decided to do this. For me, it was just like I got really tired of people telling me like how much money I can make, and like I just got tired of busting my ass for for another company that would like literally laid off 50% of our employees to hire in India. Um, and
Yeah.
my job was safe actually, but I still left after all of that. It really hit home that like nobody cares about you. And like if you're gonna wait to have somebody tell you how much money you're gonna make, like you're always gonna be stuck, you know? And like all you get is, wow, Maria, you're such a rock star. What a rock star. You know, that's the that's how you get paid. And it just wasn't, you know, so I'm very grateful for the opportunities I've had actually. I'm very grateful that I've had people in my corner to push me to take the leaps because I was afraid too.
Mhm. It's very hard to go out on that edge and on that ledge, especially like that. That's kind of thing. It's always risk versus reward. It's always like the riskiest thing. It's either going to work out great
Yeah.
or it's going to leave you flat on your face. But when it works out great, it's spectacular. Like for us, for the nurses, for the healthcare workers, we get pizza parties. That's what we get. We get, oh,
Yeah.
your healthcare heroes. Everything's going great.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but you don't get a raise, you don't get a bonus, you don't, you know what I mean? Like they pat you on the back and say, okay, so we sign you up for double overtime next week, like that's
Yeah.
that's why a lot of the nurses got into the traveling nursing, and even like your husband, the physician, doing the ad locum and stuff like that, where they travel as well. Um,
Yeah.
that really, it's always been a thing because there's always a moving need. Like obviously, like you can have a virus that hits Montana worse than it hits Texas or so on and so forth. But when it comes to like a nationwide thing, we're short staffed healthcare wise anyways. Like you pick a place, throw a dart, nursing homes, hospitals, like we're dying for staff. And
Yeah.
they're actually at this point cutting rates, cutting pay, shutting down units. And I'm starting to just now see on like TikTok and stuff where people are saying, why is it taking me 6, 8 hours sitting in the ER, and there's only one nurse that I see working the whole time? Why is it's taking me 6 to 9 months to get a specialist appointment and things like that? It's because there's no staff. It's because, like you said, these companies are laying off, they're cutting pay, and people are trying to survive. So the
Yeah.
side hustle economy is what's taken off. People don't
And
want
you
to
know
be.
what I think? I don't know. I hope this is, but I think like in 50 years from now, when you go to college, your professors are going to say, do you want a steady, stable job where you can make good, consistent money? Become a plumber, become like a really like, that will be what I don't know. It's just, I think it could happen, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean the trades have really taken off.
Yeah.
And I remember years ago, like I don't know if I ever got into this conversation with you before, but like I've been a framer, I've done plumbing, I've done drywall. Like I helped a guy flip houses before, and we would go, some of the houses they built in Cincinnati, where I'm from, were built in the 17, 1800s. So you're talking,
Hmm.
plaster walls and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've seen a lot of that stuff, but that labor for back then was paying minimum wage, if that. Now labor's paying more than college educated jobs are paying. And
Yeah.
if they can offshore it, they offshore it.
Yeah. No,
Which
it's true.
I don't
Or
really
even
see.
hairdressers, a lot of them, like the girl who does my hair, she charges like $5,000 to $6,000 for an extension for extensions.
Mhm.
That's like 2 3 hours of work. Where else are you like they
Yeah.
if they're out on their own, if they start their own, that's when they make a lot of money.
Yeah, it's really becoming, people want to complain. Like there's a big kind of taboo thing with the nurses quitting and doing the OnlyFans stuff, and I'm just like, you know what, get your money. Like you know what, do what you got to do to feed your kids and your family, and
Yeah.
more power to you. It's in my mind, it's becoming a creator economy. It's how creative can you get with what you're doing in your niche, in your market, and then also,
Yeah. I was gonna say the key. Oh, you're frozen. I thought you
oh,
stopped talking. Sorry, you were just frozen.
yeah, no, I thought you were saying something, but
Yeah,
go ahead.
I think a lot of people, though, you're right. I do think it's a creator's economy. I just think a lot of people are very afraid. Like, you just need to start. Oh my God, my videos are not stellar. Like, my Instagram videos are
Same.
not stellar. But
Oh,
like that first video that I made, I was like gagging, listening to the sound of my own voice. Like, like it's so uncomfortable to put yourself out there, even if you are like, I'm an extroverted person, but watching myself looking awkward. Hi guys, I want to tell you about this really cool like it's uncomfortable, but you just, it's the first one is the worst and then it gets better.
Yep, yep. The first step's always the hardest, and then
Yeah.
you get better with practice, just like anything else in life. Funny you mentioned hairdresser. I was literally getting a haircut earlier, and the lady was talking about how when she was younger, she used to do YouTube videos and stuff like that, but she fell out of
Mm.
it. And I said, well, why'd you fall out of it? And she said it was just kind of embarrassing, and I had a couple comments about my hair, about something else, and it was just I decided that was a little bit more than I want to do. I said, don't listen to the haters. Don't. There's always going to be people out there that, oh, this wasn't perfect, that wasn't perfect, this and that. And it's like nothing's ever perfect. Look at the world we live in. You
Yeah.
kind of wing it and do the best you can. Like,
Yeah. Just start.
right, right, right. You're going to get better as you go, and that's pretty much all there is to it. But yeah, I was looking at with the nurses, like, so you're managing the STR, the short term rentals, right?
Hmm.
What would you say would be a good thing for people that say they're getting a short-term rental and they're wanting to figure out, like, if the person they're talking to is legit, if everything's going to work out well, like, what would be
Yeah.
some steps they could take to protect themselves on that side of things?
Look at their portfolio or their book of business. See like how many units they have, where are they, and go on Airbnb, go on VRBO, read their reviews, guests leave reviews. Are they the kind of person that only has 2, 3 reviews, or do they have hundreds of reviews? And you know you have to take it as a whole. Don't just read one lousy review. Like I have one really horrible review right now, but I have 99, literally 99 or 110 great ones.
Mm.
So just go through them, read them, take people at, look at the whole picture basically. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Reviews, you have to look at the whole thing because there's some people that you're just never going to make happy no matter what you do ever.
Yeah.
And
We've all had nightmare guests. Anybody who's done this business has had nightmare guests. Guests will turn so bitter. Even over $10. Like they will turn so bitter. So yeah.
And then on the other end of that, if you are right now and you have some short-term rentals, like say, you're up in Cincinnati or Baltimore or DC or something like that, what are things that you would be doing right now to maybe prepare for the rate drops, or things that you might be looking at, opportunities that might be coming up this year that we didn't have available to us last year per se?
So for the STR aspect, like your revenue is not going to change much, or it will depend basically on the economy in terms of people's disposable income. The rates you can refi, that's something that you can utilize when rates come down and kind of take home a little more money, have some more bottom line profit. That's something that I would take advantage of. um, Let me give it another thought, but yeah, I would say probably just take advantage of refinancing, even a HELOC. Like if you've built up income into your short-term rental, maybe it's time to renovate it. And the HELOC, the way that it works is you pay, I think, 1% over the prime rate. So that rate can move up and down. So if you have a very clear, definitive timeline, I would take advantage of the HELOC and pull money out and maybe do some renovations or whatever. Just put it into something that's appreciating, and it's something that has a timeline and will appreciate the value. And I think that's a good way to utilize the HELOC.
Is the HELOC available to people that just bought a home, or do you have to be in the home so long before you can do something like that? Or
So it is based off of your equity. So if you bought at a great time, even if if you got something at a very great deal and the bank comes and appraises your house, like say you bought something for 200,000 and you get an appraisal for 260,000, well, the bank will give you 90% of your equity into that. Now, I don't know all of the terms of the HELOC, to be honest, because that's not my like specialty. So I can't tell you all the fine print, but generally you'll get 90% of your equity. And you'll pay interest on it. You'll have two payments to make. But yeah, if you know your timeline and it's a short timeline, I think it's good to take advantage of that. The reason why you don't want to utilize it when you don't have a definitive timeline is because that rate can change. So it shouldn't be a mystery when you start to invest your money like that. Like, you don't want surprises in your finances.
Yeah, amen to that. So, what would you say is the most difficult thing about managing multiple short-term rentals? Like, if you're somebody that, you got one, it's going pretty well, you're thinking about picking up a couple more, like, what warnings, or I don't know, not necessarily warnings, but like what advice could you give people that maybe already have one STR and they're doing well and they're looking at picking up, up more STRs?
Yeah, I think going back to your team is so important. Like, and you have to also know, like, this is something that I learned in my management job in tech. Like, you also have to know how to handle when your team drops things or when you drop things. Because, like, I have a great team. Overall, we're pretty good. But yeah, there are times where, like, a guest comes in and a room is not clean or whatever. They're very, 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 very infrequent. I've only had that happen once, but the point being is you have to know how to manage a great team and to keep your team motivated, because, and also, like, you need to have backup people. Like, maybe your painter can't make it. So just going back to having, putting the right group of crazies together to get the job done, really putting the right crazy people in the room.
Okay. And then for somebody that's trying to do everything by themselves, what would you suggest would be ways that they could build that team per se? Like, say somebody's got one STR that maybe they're even just renting a room out in their house right now, but they're looking at, maybe picking up another separate property on the other side of town to do, STR with. Like, how would they even start down that path of finding people to build their own team?
You can, I mean, Facebook is actually a really great place to look for ISOs and a lot of groups, to be honest. And like
Facebook groups are
utilizing your
great.
natural network. Yeah, exactly. Utilizing your natural network. Everybody has a friend who's a handyman or whatever. Try and utilize your natural network, I think would help. And if the maintenance and cleaning is a little too much for your schedule, like if you're trying to maintain a full-time job while handling all these reservations, I would recommend increasing your minimum stay. So maybe don't do nightly rentals. That's a really high turnover. And if you have to ping back and forth, that might be too much. Maybe you do a week rental. And granted, yeah, that might cut into your profits a little bit in terms of, the attractiveness of your place. But you have to balance these things and figure out what works best.
Okay. Would you say, like in your experience, going for the top of the market and then trying to extend yourself as far as you can to get every last penny, or finding maybe the middle or lower part of the market where you might not be able to get specifically top dollar, but you can maybe get more moderate income over a time?
Yeah, so if you take out like the science, like just personal experience,
Mhm.
to be honest, those customers who you get really desperate and you see 3 nights, like I might have 3 nights today, tomorrow, and the day after, and I want to have 100% capacity, and I have like 3 nights empty, and I drop the price down like maybe significantly below what it would normally fetch me. Those are the worst.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so they're usually coming in on a whim, like they book it and they are checking in the same day. I mean, you have to look at the whole picture, but in my experience, those have been the most painful customers who um have like the most unreasonable expectations, or the customers who break things, or the customers who yeah, personally. I hope I maybe I would edit that part out. That's probably not the most like
No, so
politically
so
correct.
basically what you're saying is when you drop the price down really low, then you get, customers that are in that, base of people that are in that lower, area. So they don't take it as seriously per se. Like you
Right. And
spend more, you take
okay,
it more
can I
seriously.
say this? This is
Yeah,
me
yeah.
talking to you as a friend. This is not, I don't want this to go
Okay. Yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah.
But like those are the people who will literally try and ruin your life over 20 bucks.
Yeah.
Over. Those are the people who will trespass and check in early, and then, because the check-in time is 4 o'clock and they're trying to break in at 1 o'clock, they're going to call Airbnb and say, my host gave me a dirty room, give me a refund, and they'll try and stay for free. Those are the people that you need to change the security codes after. Those are the people that you need to take photographs before and after.
It's almost
It's
not worth
happened to
doing.
me from personal experience. I had somebody do that. Say that again.
I said it's almost not worth doing. Then it sounds like with all that headache, like just dropping it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you probably middle to top of the market instead of trying to get race to the bottom and be the cheapest place.
Yeah. And even in like this idea of operating at 100% capacity, to be honest, is not actually the most efficient. That's actually a fallacy, because one bottleneck, one hiccup can cause like a domino effect and several other things. That's in management, that's in like managing people, even with nurses. Like if all the nurses are up to 100% and one nurse gets sick, who's like, you're out of options. So, operating at that 70 to 80% is actually more efficient in the long run than 100%.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah. Because like you were saying, most off the flip side in the healthcare, most healthcare short staffed as it is. So even one person calling out or missing a shift or something going on, everybody on that shift is getting slammed because of that, because they were already short to begin with. Um,
Exactly.
so looking at from the nurse side of things, uh, what do you think about people that say, I'm looking at a short term rental or a midterm rental, let's say. So maybe I'm doing 60 to 90 days and I'm looking at like Minneapolis, Minnesota. What would you say would be something that maybe I could get a hold of the owner and say, I'm a traveling nurse. I'm going to be there 30 days or 60 days. Can we work out some kind of deal or something like that? Like, have you ever had anybody do that? What do you think about that? Like, from the,
Um, so because I operate in that daily rental area, it's really easy for me to get somebody else who doesn't want a discount. But when you get to those longer stays, I think that is more like the owner is more likely to accept that, because if they have a minimum stay that's a little bit long, it's going to cost them more money to not have somebody in it than to not give you a discount. So I think that can really work. Offering to come back again, offering to leave, like, if things are good, leaving a good review. Like, people love getting good reviews. So that's, if you've already stayed with somebody before and you've already left them a good review and you reach out to them, I think that's also going to help you.
okay. And I have heard from some people that we have on the crash pads list and stuff that one of the reasons they came over to us is because they were having issues with Airbnb where they would like search their own property and it wouldn't come up on the map. And they had to call and it was a hassle.
Yeah.
Have you had any issues like that? Have you heard anything like that from people?
I actually had that issue with VRBO, which is one of the reasons why I moved just to Airbnb, because I haven't experienced that in Airbnb. So, and I think you have the option of displaying the full address or the approximate area.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, Airbnb support is, sometimes you get somebody who can really help you, and sometimes you have somebody who just says, I'll get back to you.
Mm,
And
okay. So it's kind of 50-50 shot. And I've heard a lot of people saying that they're really focused on the renters, and that some of the landlords were saying another reason they came over to Crash Pads list is because they would get like literally one bad review and then get banned like for life from
Mhm.
Airbnb. Is that something that you've heard of, or is it something that you've experienced? Because
I'm surprised one bad review will get you
yeah,
banned.
I'm
One?
just stuff I've heard. Like, and I don't have
Huh.
any hard fact. I'm not trying to bash any
Yeah.
specific place or anything like that. Like you said, you had issues with PRBO. There's so many of these ones popping up now in that space, the short term and the midterm rental and stuff like that. Um,
Well, what
So,
you can do is like you can call Airbnb support for something like that and ask to have that removed. And if you provide evidence that their review is either not true or does not comply with their policies on giving reviews, then that can be removed. So, like, for example, one of their policies is not only does it have to be honest, but say it has to give specific reasons, and they just say, "This is the worst guest I've ever had. Don't host them." That doesn't comply with their policies.
okay. So from your experience, it's been relatively decent doing working with Airbnb, and you actually didn't like working with VRBO, or you just had
It's
issues.
not that I didn't like working with VRBO. Actually, the issue that I ran into is I utilize both. So the calendars need to talk to each other. And there is actually a way to make the calendars talk to each other. So that when somebody books on VRBO, it blocks on your Airbnb side. But what ended up happening is, this is just my personal experience. It had to constantly be refreshed, and I was getting such a higher volume personally from Airbnb. Like I was getting like 95% of my bookings from Airbnb and only 5% from VRBO. So I thought, if I can master, if I just put it out there and already 95% of my bookings are coming from from Airbnb, let me master Airbnb. That's like more high yield, basically.
Mhm. So now, when you're looking at doing the short term rental, the midterm rental, like what are you comfortable budgeting on your advertising? Like, did you factor that in at all, or you were just like, I'm just going to pick a site and go with it, or like, how do you figure it? Because I mean, you can obviously buy Facebook ads, Google ads. You could set up your own website, which I've heard a lot of people are doing their own marketing at this point. How do you come to that decision? Like, what, being from business school with your education, your background, like, what would you say to somebody that was looking at doing that? Like, maybe they're on Airbnb, but they want to, like you said, off VRBO, they were only getting 5% or something.
Yeah. So,
Like,
I mean, you really have to, each property is unique. Each property will bring in unique customers. So trying to figure out where your customer's at. And, sometimes you need to try things. Try something and see what happens. Maybe don't try something once. Like in real estate, we say don't like just mail out postcards once and wonder why you never got any leads. Sometimes you have to farm that area, and and I do think generally, honestly, consistency is key when it comes to advertising. Like maybe it's not whatever you decide to do. Maybe Instagram boosts are like slightly better than Facebook boosts. But if you are consistent with Facebook, it will be much better than just randomly doing a random Instagram ad or social media or whatever. So consistency is key. And sometimes you just need to try some things to figure out where your customers are.
yeah, I agree. Like you were saying with the entrepreneurialism, sometimes the scariest part's getting started. And
Yeah.
then just going from there and seeing, either you're going to win or you're going to lose, but you got a 50-50 shot at least. Like,
Yeah.
So, well, I was going to go ahead and wrap it up. We're getting here to like almost an hour of content. And I don't think what you were saying before about, hey, don't take this out or whatever. I honestly think it's not a big deal. I honestly do, because like I said, I've been on the other side of that, and I don't disagree with you that, you know, sometimes there's customers. I mean, we in nursing will have patients that, you just cannot make them happy, and you try the best you can. You care about them like if they was your own mom or your own kid. But,
Yeah.
you know, sometimes it's just not going to happen, and you do the best you can. You make sure you do everything by the book and by the letter. But
Yeah,
yeah,
you
yeah,
have
yeah.
to follow, and that's the really important thing is you always need to leave, like when you get into this business and you start to recognize this person is maybe a troublesome customer. You start to learn, the right ways to communicate, how to keep things in writing, utilizing the platform, not taking um uh being very you stick to the policies in those cases, to be honest, and you enforce your policies, because sometimes in this business, when you're dealing with such high volume, you can't make so many exceptions, to be honest. You start to lose efficiency, and you start to lose, like, you just start to lose too much. If there, you always have to take things into consideration. I'm not saying never make exceptions, but sticking use their policies are there for a reason. And I actually got into Airbnb support with this is, if you have these policies, let the hosts enforce their policies. If there is a dispute or whatever, let the host enforce their policies, and then it can be dealt with outside Airbnb. But to offer exceptions to everything, you start to lose your edge.
Yeah, I could see how, if you're trying to follow policies and procedures and they're changing, or you don't they're not really honoring the policies and procedures, that's going to make it really difficult for you to have consistency.
You're right.
And like you said, a lot of it is about consistency, like, look, I have a service or a product that I offer. It's consistently a good service or a good product. And, like, depending on these platforms that we're using, and trust me, I know all about that. They can definitely be a headache here and there with the things
Yeah.
they change and things they do. And, we just got to roll with the punches, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
so, like, in closing, what would you say, to a person that this is all new to them, but they're curious, they've heard of, doing short-term rental, mid-term rental, stuff like that. Like, what advice would you give that person that's just even they haven't stuck their toe in the road yet, but they're like still wanting to see where that's going to go.
Yeah, I mean, it's really great that you're thinking about that. Like, if you're on that end and you're considering it, it's great that your mind is starting to think in those ways, and ways to generate passive income, and to whether that's for your retirement, for this passive income to give you another property. The most important thing, like I was saying, is get in the game, get started, get yourself a coin to trade or to move up with. Let and you will win in the end, no matter what you do in real estate. If you play the long game, you don't have to be the best at the game, but if you play the long game, you will win. So I just encourage you to get started, get into the market, and then once you're there, try and figure out a great location for you. How hands-on do you want to be? Do you want to just give somebody your percentage for them to manage fully? Do you want it to be close by to you? Those are the kinds of questions you need to ask. And of course, most importantly, will it cash flow? What's going to cash flow the best? Because even if you have a high interest rate, if it cash flows good, then you're good.
Okay, so cash flow is basically just at the end of every month what you spent versus what you brought in, and you actually earning something over the top of what your costs were.
Exactly, getting a profit at the end.
Okay, so even if you got an 8-9% interest rate, but you can still make 1,500 a month or something,
Yeah,
profit after you pay all your bills, it's still worth it even at an 8-9% interest rate to do it.
right. Exactly.
All right. Well, Maria, I really appreciate this. We could go on and on and on. Like, honestly, that's why I was looking at it. I'm like, I know you got stuff to do. It's kind of getting late. Like, see these bags underneath here. Yeah. That's what's going to happen many years from now. But no, but it's been great talking to you, and I think this will be a great resource and some great information. And like I said, shoot me a text with your office number and the email address you use for work and stuff. I'll put it in the links down below here, or any other information. And then anybody else that would want to comment or anything like underneath or ask questions, we can always come back, revisit stuff, maybe do another one of these down the road. Like
I
I said,
would love to. Yeah, I had
yeah.
a great time chatting with you.
Yeah, no, it was spectacular. You're a wonderful resource, and and a great person. I gotta say that too. From the time that we were introduced and stuff, you're a great communicator. You're very punctual. Things that are awesome just in general. Like, what people say or do. I'm gonna be here at this time. I'm gonna make this call. Friends, family, whatever. I have a son who's in school. He's going for mechanical engineering. He likes to ignore my texts and my phone calls. Yeah, until he needs something, and
Yeah.
then I got 15 missed calls in about 10 minutes. But yeah, still love him, still squirt, and how about you? Got kids?
No, just my husband and I for now.
Okay.
Um, but who knows? Yeah,
Got to
maybe in
finish
a
the
couple years.
renovations first, huh?
Yeah, for real. Actually, that's one of the reasons. I think that's one of the reasons why he wants these to hurry up and be done, so that we can like settle in and have a family here. I do think
Man,
we will have a family in this house soon.
amen. Well, like I said, I wish nothing for the best for you, Maria, and
Thanks, likewise.
let me know, and I will shoot you a copy of everything so you can okay everything. I think it went great. I think people are going to get great information out of this, and I definitely appreciate your time and appreciate the good Lord having the grace to let me bump into you.
Yeah, me
So,
too. Likewise.
thanks so much, Maria. I'll talk to you later.
All right, take
Bye.
care.
Bye.
Bye.